All right, let's dive into the world of Julia Chang.
Sounds fun.
You want to know everything about Julia Chang, right?
Yeah.
And you've given us like a ton of stuff to work with. We got character bios, gameplay, even like plot summaries from different Tekken games.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
And what I think is super cool is how like her story plays out over so many games. Like you actually see her grow up from like a teenager to a scientist
Yeah.
and then like even an internet star eventually. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we should start, back in the beginning.
Okay, sure.
Abandoned baby, raised by a tribe, fighting to save forests.
Uh-oh.
I know, right? There's a lot there.
Yeah. Well, what's so fascinating about Julia is that she's not just like your typical fighting game character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's real depth to her, like to her story.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Okay.
Where does it all begin?
Okay, so like you mentioned, Julia's story starts with her being found as a baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in some Native American ruins. So she's lucky enough to be found by Michelle Chang,
Okay.
who adopts her
Yeah.
and raises her as, part of her tribe.
Right.
Michelle teaches her like everything about fighting, which kind of explains why their fighting styles are so similar.
Yeah. And those fighting skills get put to the test pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Remember that whole thing with Heihachi Mishima
Yeah.
and the god of fighting?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So in Tekken 3, Julia's like around 18, and she learns that like martial artists are disappearing.
Yeah.
All over the world. And it turns out Heihachi Mishima, who, is the head of the Mishima Zaibatsu.
Oh, right.
Which is like this powerful corporation, by the way.
Yeah.
He's behind it.
Oh, no.
He's trying to awaken this ancient entity called Ogre.
Ogre, yeah.
The god of fighting,
Yeah.
using a pendant that belonged to Michelle.
So naturally, Michelle goes to confront him.
Right. And then she ends up missing.
Oh, no.
That's when Julia decides to step up.
Yeah.
And she enters the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3 to find her mom.
So classic video game motivation. Rescue the parent, win the tournament, end of story.
Right. Well, not quite.
Oh,
I mean, she does rescue her mom, but Julia's story doesn't end there. It actually takes like a really interesting turn.
Okay.
So Julia also learns about this growing desert that's threatening her tribe's land. And it sparks like a whole new passion in her, which is environmental protection.
So it's like she realizes that saving her tribe like means more than just winning fights.
Yeah.
She's got to protect their home too.
You got it. And this concern for her tribe and the environment, it becomes like a major driving force for Julia, you know? And it's what leads her to become a scientist.
Right.
Focusing on reforestation.
Interesting.
So instead of just punching her way to a solution, she's using her brain to make a difference, a real difference in the world.
I like that. It's a pretty big change from like warrior princess to eco-warrior. And I know from the stuff you sent me that in Tekken 5, she even has like a breakthrough in her research, right? There's that whole scene with the seedling in like the lab jar.
Yes, that's right. It's a small detail in her in Tekken 5 ending, but it's significant. You see this tiny seedling actually starting to grow in one of her jars. And it's like a visual representation of the impact that she wants to have on the world.
Yeah.
And remember, this is before she becomes this like internet sensation. It shows that even back in the earlier games, she was already dedicated to, finding real solutions.
Yeah, so we got Julia the skilled fighter, we got Julia the dedicated scientist. But wait, there's more?
Oh.
We can't forget about Jaycee, the masked wrestler.
Oh, yeah. Jaycee. This is where things get even more interesting. So we first see Julia as Jaycee in Tekken Tag Tournament 2.
Okay.
Initially, she becomes Jaycee to help out a friend who's a wrestler. But later on, she uses this persona to raise funds for her reforestation project.
Talk about a side hustle.
Sure.
It's like a secret identity, but for a good cause. She's got brains, brawn, and a whole lot of heart. What's not to love? But was it really just about the money?
That's a great question.
I mean, it's Julia we're talking about.
Yeah. So the Jaycee persona is more than just about fundraising.
Yep.
Think of it this way. Julia needs to capture people's attention if she wants to save the forests, right? So being, a flamboyant, energetic wrestler gets people talking, even if it's different from her her usual, like, serious scientist self. And it kind of foreshadows her later move to the internet, where she's putting herself out there even more.
So maybe, like, Jaycee was a testing ground for her future as an internet star.
Yeah.
It's like she's learning like how to play the game, how to work an audience.
Exactly.
And she's realizing that sometimes you need like a bit more showmanship to really get your message across.
Yeah, it's like those nature documentaries, you know? They got to get creative to like show us the wonders of nature and the threats that it faces, you know? Sometimes being a bit of a showman is how you make people care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Julia's got the fighting skills, the scientific knowledge, and now she's even like mastering the art of getting attention.
Yeah.
But how does all of this come together in the later games?
Yeah.
Like specifically in Tekken 7, where she's using the internet to spread awareness and like raise money.
Right.
That's a pretty big leap.
It is a significant shift. So in Tekken 7, she's become like a full-fledged internet live streamer using her platform to talk about reforestation and raise funds. It reflects how activism has changed in the real world too, you know? Like, think about it. So many people get their information and connect with causes online now.
Totally.
Julia's just keeping up with the times.
So she's not just fighting for the environment anymore. She's like fighting for attention in a whole new arena, the internet.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to make a difference these days, you got to go where the people are.
Right. But it also raises some interesting questions. Like, how does this new, more public Julia fit with the Julia we saw in the earlier games?
Yeah.
Is she still the same person, like, deep down? Or is this just another way of, like, wearing a mask, like she did with Jaycee?
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're seeing different sides of her,
Yes.
different, like, layers to her personality.
Right,
and now on top of everything else, she's, like, fixated on Kazuya Mishima in Tekken 7.
Yes. Remember him?
Yeah.
Heihachi's son. She believes he's become the devil. Like, literally.
Oh, wow.
And Julia thinks if she can defeat him, it'll, like, bring massive attention to her cause.
Hold on. She wants to take on the devil himself.
Yeah.
Even for someone as, like, skilled and determined as Julia, that seems a little ambitious, don't you think?
Julia's never been one to back down from a challenge.
Sure.
But it's more than that.
Okay.
She's not doing this for herself.
Right.
She truly believes that by stopping Kazuya, she can, like, prevent some kind of global catastrophe.
Wow.
It's like she carries the weight of the world on her shoulders.
It definitely sounds like Julia's journey is getting even more complex.
Yeah.
So is this online persona just another mask?
Yeah.
Is she using the internet to, like, manipulate people?
Yeah.
Or is she genuinely trying to do good? We'll have to dive into that a bit later.
Yes. Yeah, it is interesting you bring that up, like the manipulation thing.
Yeah.
Because some fans have, you know, questioned how genuine, like, Julie's internet persona really is.
Yeah. She definitely seems a lot more, like, peppy in Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Is that just for the cameras?
Yeah.
Has she really changed that much? I mean, she was so serious in the earlier games, remember?
Yeah, it's true. She's not just talking about, you know, science anymore. She's, like, dancing and, like, cracking jokes, even, like, doing these over-the-top reactions.
Yeah.
It's a far cry from, like, the stoic warrior we saw in Tekken 3.
It makes you wonder if she's kind of lost a bit of herself in this, like, quest for online fame.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in that whole influencer thing. Start, like, playing a character for the views.
But let's not forget, like, Julia has always been resourceful.
Yeah.
And adaptable. Think back to Tekken 4 when the Mishima Zaibatsu stole her reforestation research data.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't just, you know, sit around and feel sorry for herself.
Right.
She entered the tournament to get it back.
You're right. And she even teamed up with Professor T and G Corporation to advance her research.
Yeah.
So even back then, she was willing to, like, work within these complicated systems.
Yeah.
And use technology to, you know, to achieve her goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you consider, like, her time as Jaycee,
right,
it's clear that, like, Julia understands the power of performance.
Yeah.
She knows how to work a crowd, how to use, like, showmanship
right,
to get people on board with her mission.
So maybe this, like, new, more energetic Julia isn't so different from the old one after all.
Right.
Perhaps it's just a more evolved version of the same strategy.
Yeah.
A way of, like, connecting with a wider audience.
That's a really insightful way to look at it. It's not necessarily about being fake.
Right.
It's about understanding, like, how to communicate effectively in a world that's constantly being bombarded with information.
It's like, if you want to talk about something as serious as saving the planet, you can't just lecture people. You got to entertain them.
Yeah.
You got to make them laugh. You got to grab their attention before they scroll on to the next thing.
Precisely. And the shift in, like, Julia's approach actually reflects a broader trend in environmental activism.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeing more and more organizations using humor and creativity and online platforms to, like, engage younger generations.
Yeah.
Make environmental issues more, like, accessible.
That's so true. It's not just about being right anymore. It's about being persuasive.
Yeah.
Making people feel connected to the cause.
And remember, Julia isn't just trying to save, a few trees.
Right.
She's trying to protect her tribe's ancestral lands. Her entire heritage. It's like a deeply personal mission for her.
Right.
That goes beyond just like a scientific or political agenda.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But let's get back to this whole Kazuya Mishima thing.
Yeah.
You said she believes he's literally become the devil.
Yes. So, in the Tekken universe, it's not just a metaphor.
Right.
Kazuya has literally been depicted with, like, demonic powers and a thirst for destruction.
Oh, wow.
Julia sees him as, like, a major threat, not just to her reforestation efforts, but, like, to the entire world.
So she's not just fighting for the forests anymore. She's, like, fighting for the fate of humanity.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. Do you think she really believes she can defeat the devil?
Well, remember that Julia's always been driven by this, like, strong sense of responsibility. First, it was, like, protecting her tribe and her mother. Then it was, like, preserving the environment.
Yeah.
Now it seems like she's, taken on this burden of saving the world from, like, a demonic threat.
It's almost like her mission keeps, like, expanding.
Yeah.
Growing more and more epic with each game. But it also makes you wonder about her motivations,
Yeah.
Is she truly altruistic? Or is there a part of her that's, like, driven by ego, by the desire to be seen as, like, a hero?
That's a great question, and it's one that the game doesn't necessarily answer for us.
Right.
It's, like, left open to interpretation, which is what makes Julia such a fascinating character. She's, like, complex, driven, and capable of both, like, great compassion and ruthless determination.
It's like she embodies this, like, duality, the ancient wisdom of her tribe combined with the, like, modern tech-savvy approach of an influencer.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins.
And perhaps that's the point. Julia's story isn't about, like, clear-cut answers or simple solutions. It's about navigating the complexities of, like, the modern world, balancing, tradition and progress, and fighting for what you believe in, even when the odds, like, seem insurmountable.
That's a pretty heavy concept for, like, a fighting game character.
It is, but it's also incredibly relevant to the challenges that, like, we face in the real world.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Think about, like, the debates we have about climate change, technology, social justice. There's so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
So many gray areas. Julia's story kind of encourages us to, like, embrace that complexity.
Right.
To question our assumptions and to find our own ways of, like, making a difference.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see Julia in a whole new light.
Yeah.
She's not just a cool character with, like, awesome fighting skills.
Yeah.
She's, like, a reflection of the struggles we all face in, like, a world that's constantly changing.
Exactly. And perhaps that's the most powerful message of all. Like, we don't need, supernatural powers or ancient artifacts to be heroes.
Right.
We just need, like, the courage to stand up for what we believe in and the willingness to, like, adapt and evolve as the world around us changes.
So where does that leave Julia in her quest to, like, defeat Kazuya and save the world? Does she succeed? Does she find that balance between, like, tradition and progress?
Well, to answer those questions, you'll have to, delve into Tekken 7 yourself and see how her story unfolds.
Right.
But I think the real question is, we learn from Julia's journey.
Right.
How can we apply her resilience, her adaptability, and her, like, unwavering commitment to our own lives?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So for our listener who wants to know about Julia Chang, I hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for, like, her complexity and depth.
She's definitely more than just a pretty face with a mean roundhouse kick.
And if you're, like, curious to see how her story plays out, I highly recommend, checking out Tekken 7. You might be surprised by what you discover. And who knows, maybe Julia's journey will, like, inspire you to find your own way of making a difference in the world.
It's amazing how much we've, like, uncovered about Julia just from, like, looking at her story across the Tekken games.
Yeah. Like, each game adds another, like, layer to her character.
It is a testament to the writers and developers who, like, crafted her journey over the years. They've managed to create a character who's both deeply rooted in, like, a specific culture.
Yeah.
And yet universally relatable in her struggles and aspirations.
And you've helped us connect those dots in ways I never would have thought of before. So we've talked about her goals, protecting her tribe's land, fighting for the environment, even, like, taking on the devil himself.
Yeah.
But what's the bigger picture here?
Yeah.
Like, what is Julia ultimately trying to achieve?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond just, like, saving forests or defeating, a single villain. If we, like, zoom out and look at her journey as a whole, I think Julia's story is really about the struggle for balance.
Okay, break that down for me. What kind of balance are we talking about?
Think about it. Julia is, like, caught between tradition and modernity. She's deeply connected to her, Native American heritage and the ancient wisdom of her tribe.
Right.
But she's also embracing, like, cutting-edge technology and using, global platforms like the internet to spread her message.
Right.
She's a scientist and a fighter, an activist and an entertainer. She embodies all these, like, seemingly opposite forces.
Yeah.
But she's constantly trying to find a way to make them work together.
So it's not just about, like, saving nature. It's about finding a way for humans to, like, live in harmony with nature.
Exactly.
Using both, like, the old ways and the new tools we have.
Yeah. And that's a concept that's, like, so relevant to the world today, don't you think?
Totally.
We're facing so many challenges: climate change, deforestation, social inequality. We need people like Julia.
Yeah.
People who are willing to, like, bridge those divides, to find solutions that respect both the old and the new. It's like she's a symbol of that struggle, a beacon of hope, in a world that often feels, like, very divided.
That makes me think about, like, her approach to activism.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about how she's not afraid to be a bit of a showman?
Yeah.
To use, like, humor and entertainment to get her message across? It's like she understands that you can be serious about a cause without taking yourself too seriously.
That's such a crucial point. It's about finding that sweet spot,
Yeah.
That balance between being informative and being engaging.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you know if you can't communicate it effectively.
Right.
And inspire others to, like, act.
And Julia's story is, like, a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
She's not just, talking about reforestation. She's showing people why it matters, why they should care.
Exactly.
And she's doing it in a way that's, like, both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Yes. She's not preaching from, like, a soapbox.
Right.
She's, like, inviting people into a conversation, making them laugh, making them think. Yeah. And that's what makes her such an effective advocate, both in the Tekken universe and as a character who resonates with so many people, like, in the real world.
It's inspiring to see a character like Julia, who's so dedicated to, like, making a difference.
Yeah.
Even when the odds seem stacked against her. It makes you wonder if we all have a little bit of Julia Chang in us,
Yeah.
That potential to, like, fight for what we believe in, to find that balance within ourselves and the world around us.
Perhaps that's, like, the ultimate takeaway from Julia's journey.
Yeah.
It's not just about her, like, individual victories or defeats. It's about, like, the inspiration she provides, the reminder that even in the face of, like, seemingly insurmountable challenges, we can all strive to make a positive impact on the world.
And maybe, just maybe, have a little fun along the way.
Absolutely. Because, let's face it, saving the world doesn't have to be all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
A little bit of laughter and joy can go a long way.
So for our listener who wanted to know all about Julia Chang, I hope this deep dive has shown you that she's much more than just a fighter. She's a scientist, an activist, an entertainer, and most importantly, a symbol of hope and resilience.
A crude testament to the power of, like, blending ancient wisdom with modern methods.
And who knows, maybe her story will inspire you to take on your own challenges.
Yeah.
Find your own balance and, make your own mark on the world.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Julia Chang.
It was fun.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep fighting for what you believe in.